When the arrow of Sagittarius begins to tremble, it's no longer just a signal. It's a silent verdict, signed between the layers of heaven long ago, only waiting for the right moment, for justice to be released like a beam of light that cannot be denied. Have you felt lately that something buried is starting to rise again? An old debt, a forgotten truth, or a part of your voice finally beginning to be heard? Don't think it's random. Nothing in this universe is random, especially when Jupiter, the guardian planet of your Sagittarius soul, is circling back to reopen old records, and this time to settle them. In that moment, when you're still wondering why justice never came sooner, the universe already has its answer, and I'm here to tell you what that answer is. I promise you, everything that was taken from you, your reputation, your love, your chances, your voice, is now being rewritten under a light that's clear and irreversible. Stay with me, because right after this, you'll understand why the South Node and North Node have chosen this moment to reopen a soul contract that only someone like you, a Sagittarius with enough courage, could sign again. There are truths in life that aren't taught, they're inherited, passed through blood, like a sacred flame. And for Sagittarius, that flame is real. It's not something learned from books. It comes from the deepest layers of the unconscious, from your family, your ancestors, those who came before you, who may have never spoken the truth aloud, but always hoped you would be the one brave enough to say it. I've seen this play out time and time again, in more than 50 years of reading birth charts, especially for those who carry fire. But no one carries fire the way Sagittarius does, because you don't hold truth to protect yourself. You carry truth to free others. That's why when Pluto moves through the fourth house, the house of roots and origin, you simply can't pretend everything is okay. Not when the people you love are living in ways that betray their own essence. It's not that you enjoy conflict. It's just that it hurts you to see people repeating the same illusions, generation after generation, and a part of your soul was born to end that pattern. Look back, just for a moment. Was there ever a time when you felt like the only one in the family who truly saw what was going on? Even when you didn't say anything, even when you tried to blend in, your soul still picked up on the truths hidden beneath the polished words and forced smiles. That is the effect of Pluto, when shadow rises, not to destroy, but to purify, to strip away the gold-plated surface, so people can finally see where the real cracks lie. And you, Sagittarius, you were the one who carried the light into that dark room. I know. It hasn't been easy. You've been misunderstood, called too much, accused of over-analyzing, or worse, of stirring up division. But the irony is, you spoke up to bring people closer together. You told the truth to prevent a tragedy. You were honest because you loved them. I've met Sagittarius souls who walked away from the family dinner table because they couldn't pretend to agree with outdated beliefs. I've seen Sagittarians leave the very homes they built with their hearts, simply because they chose to live in alignment with their truth. And I've always believed this. The ones the family calls rebels are often the ones carrying the medicine the bloodline has been waiting for. Because every family has one soul who says, we cannot keep living like this. Every lineage has someone who dares to look at the truth generations have avoided. And in your family, that person is you. I call people like you, those who refuse to sign the silence. You didn't come to keep the peace by betraying your conscience. You came to offer a kind of peace that lasts, one that is built on clarity and healing. But do you know what hurts the most? Not being misunderstood, not being rejected. What truly hurts is the moment you realize you've paid with your entire soul to keep the people you love safe, and they never even noticed or weren't ready to admit it. It feels like you paid a heavy price, and no one even knew you paid it on their behalf. And that is why I'm here to say this to you. Justice is never late. It only arrives when your soul is mature enough to receive it, not as revenge, but as quiet peace. There will come a day when you realize everything you lost in truth will be returned to you as blessing, because the fire of Sagittarius never burns for nothing. It always leaves behind light, somewhere. Maybe in the heart of someone you once told the truth. Maybe in the eyes of a child who grows up one day, choosing to live right because they saw you do it first. And even when no one claps for you, the universe sees it all. That's why Jupiter, your ruling planet, is now circling back to the very spot where Pluto once unearthed your ancestral shadows to bring your light back to center stage. This isn't just a moment of healing. This is the moment your light is being officially recognized. I've seen many birth charts with the same markers: Pluto in the 4th house, ancestral shadow, Jupiter aligned with justice, soul redemption, Mars in the 9th house, voice of truth. And when these align, only one thing ever happens: an invisible apology from the old generation, a surprising opportunity from destiny, a final moment where you no longer need to explain yourself, because the energy of the cosmos is speaking for you now. I once asked a Sagittarius, if you knew they would reject you, would you still speak the truth? They smiled and said, if I didn't speak, I wouldn't be myself anymore. That kind of courage can't be copied, and that's why justice never forgets a Sagittarius, even if the world tries to. So breathe deeply, and if you feel a tightness in your chest as you hear this, it's not weakness, it's your soul finally being heard. You're not crazy, you're not wrong. You're simply someone who saw the truth before others were ready to face it. And now, as Pluto's frequency begins to move on and Jupiter steps in, you're about to receive not just justice, but yourself. If this is touching something inside you, then I invite you to say one simple sentence as a soul-level affirmation: I am ready to receive the great destiny of justice that belongs to me. This is not just a declaration. It's an energetic signature. It's your way of telling the universe, I'm no longer hiding. I'm stepping into the light. And this time, I'm not carrying shame with me. Write that sentence in the comments. Not for me, but for you. And if you believe these words could help someone out there, someone holding pain similar to yours, then please share this video. Not to spread information, but to spread light, because people like you, those who carry the light of truth, deserve to never feel alone again. And right after this, I'll share with you the hidden verdict that is beginning to rewrite itself on the axis of universal resources, where justice is not just a concept, but a currency, an opportunity, a sacred invitation. Don't leave yet, because in the next chapter, I will tell you about the first person who will return to you something you once lost. Not through an apology, but through action. Some people, when justice finally arrives, they celebrate, they cry, they fight for every little piece of what was once stolen from them. But others, when justice knocks, they simply smile and sit still. They no longer need to reclaim anything, because somewhere in the stillness they walked through, they already received something far more valuable than justice: peace from within. You, Sagittarius, you are likely the second kind. I know. You've been through seasons where everything felt unfairly delayed. Opportunity slipped through your fingers. Your voice was pushed aside, and you felt like you had to ask permission just to be right. That's the effect of Saturn squaring your ascendant, a kind of energy that doesn't silence you because you're weak, but because the universe is deepening your voice to a meaning others can't yet reach. You weren't silent to suffer. You were silent to observe, to make sure that when you finally speak, your words would be light, not reaction. That's a kind of mature power that not everyone arrives at. I believe there was a time in your life when you quietly wondered, why is justice so late? Why does it only come when I've already stopped needing it? And I understand that feeling, because I've seen so many Sagittarius souls like you, people who had to learn not to demand justice, but to become its living embodiment. You didn't reclaim your dignity. You lived with dignity. You didn't need the crowd's approval. You let time and karma do the talking for you. In classical astrology, justice is not a single event. It's a sacred principle. It works constantly, like Themis, the goddess who holds the scales of fate, where every action is noted, every choice is weighed, without bias, without emotion, without explanation. And in your birth chart, the very place where Saturn once blocked your path is now where Themis lights the way home. As that square starts to soften, something happens very quietly. You begin to realize justice didn't come to teach anyone a lesson. It came to help you. Finally, tell your story without asking for permission. You no longer need to prove anything, no longer need to speak through doubt, no longer need to argue, to be heard. Because now, your life itself is speaking for you. You, Sagittarius, are the only zodiac sign ruled by Jupiter, planet of blessings, wisdom, and expansion. This not only makes you a seeker of truth, it makes you someone who knows how to forgive without losing yourself, not because you're weak, but because you understand that when forgiveness is a conscious choice, it becomes one of the most powerful acts on earth. I want to share this with you, not as theory, but as something I've witnessed with my own eyes after over 50 years of working with thousands of birth charts. I've seen many Sagittarians let go, not because they gave up, but because they understood something profound. The greatest victory is not getting it back. It's not having to live in that emotion anymore. You've forgiven someone, even when you had every reason not to. And in that moment, something strange happened. Your heart felt lighter. You were no longer imprisoned by the story. And a new chapter quietly opened. One where you were no longer defined by the wound, but by the way you healed from it. That is cosmic justice. the kind that doesn't arrive in courtrooms, doesn't require anyone's acknowledgement, because it comes from restoring a sacred order inside your own soul. And I believe, if you're still listening right now, it means you're ready. You're ready to enter that state, a state of clarity without harm, a state of truth that no longer needs an apology, a state where everything that was taken from you returns, not because someone was forced to give it back, but because you made space for it to come home. Pause, just for a moment, and ask yourself, could it be that the good things are already finding their way back to you? Not loud, not dramatic, but right on time and deeper than ever before. It could be a simple thank you from someone who once hurt you. It could be an opportunity you thought was gone forever, returning now in a different form. It could be a quiet sense of safety, something you haven't felt in years. That is the universe answering you. And sometimes, justice returns not as applause, but as peace. The deepest soul lesson I've learned is this: the blessings of Sagittarius don't come through revenge. They come through helping others understand that the more transparent justice becomes, the safer the world feels. You've lived like a pillar of light in the middle of chaos. You stood tall when others chose silence, and now light is choosing you. Let this moment be a pause, a quiet breath in your journey, a space where you look back on the years your voice was taken away, and instead of regret, you feel grateful, because it was the silence that gave your voice the weight it now carries. So I invite you to write right now in the comments, "I'm ready to live without needing an apology," or "I'm ready to tell my story without the pain." These aren't just words. They are a key, a vibrational unlock. They awaken all the good things that have been waiting just outside the door. Because sometimes, all it takes is for you to finally step into the light, and what you deserve will find its way to you. And if this video is touching something deep inside your heart, please share it with someone you love. Someone who may be walking the same quiet path you once walked. Because sharing is how we become protectors of justice for each other. No titles needed, no degrees, just a warm enough heart. I want you to remember this. In a crowd of people, the one who dares to speak the truth, to protect justice, is the one protecting the whole community. You are not just living for yourself. You are helping to shape a world where future generations can grow with fewer wounds, more truth, and more kindness. And right after this, I'll tell you about the invisible gifts that are now shifting their way toward you. Not as compensation, but as an invitation. Are you ready to live in the fullness of your true light? Stay with me, because the next chapter is not just about being given back what was taken. It's about expanding into something far beyond what you ever asked for. You see, there's a kind of justice that doesn't happen in a courtroom. It doesn't require judges, lawyers, or documents. It arrives in the quiet. When the universe returns something to you that was taken a long time ago, and most of the time, it doesn't show up to make you feel triumphant. It comes to let you breathe again, to exhale fully, maybe for the first time in years. Let me tell you a story, not about someone else, but about you. You, Sagittarius, who once had something precious taken away, a chance, part of your resources, a spiritual debt left unpaid, a trust betrayed, a voice ignored, and even if no one else noticed, a part of you knew it wasn't right, but you didn't scream, you didn't retaliate. You looked it in the eye and walked away, quietly. That is when the Eight of Cups entered your energy, the moment your soul chose to leave a place, not because you hated it, but because you needed something more aligned with your truth. You stopped living to be validated and started living to be righter with yourself. In astrology, this is the sacred alignment between the second house and the eighth house, known as the axis of resources, power, and spiritual repayment. It's the cosmic thread between what appears material, but holds the biggest spiritual lessons about self-worth, self-value, and how you define your own integrity. The second house teaches you how to build your worth. The eighth house tests you through deep, unpredictable loss, and it's in that very space that the universe begins to return what I call the delayed but rightful reward of the soul. Maybe someone took your money, your chances, your voice. But let me say this clearly. The longer a blessing is withheld, the greater the divine interest it returns with. Because nothing is lost in this universe, it's only ever transferred from your hands to a lesson. And once the lesson is complete, what was taken comes back, not just as it was, but with the interest of all the good you planted while waiting. I've seen many Sagittarius charts follow this exact pattern. Early years marked by lack, interrupted by someone else's control. A phase of sacrifice, where others benefited from your labor or love. But then, a quiet cycle begins, where you stop asking, and the resources begin flowing back to you in the most unexpected ways. I'm not talking about miracles. I'm talking about the intricate design of the cosmos, where anything unjust eventually gets realigned to the right person at the right time, in the right way. When you start receiving invitations you can't explain. When money comes from places you forgot existed. When someone who owes you simply reaches out and makes it right. That's not coincidence. That's House 8 repaying its debt, and you're not the same person anymore. You no longer need to prove yourself. You no longer need to explain why you're worthy. You just need to quietly receive. You only need to step forward as yourself, nothing more, nothing less. And soul inheritance will begin to unfold on its own. You see, money isn't just a number, it's living proof that you've completed your lesson on worth. You now know who you are, without needing anyone's approval, and in that moment, you become the one entrusted with the light you once thought was lost forever. Some people, when they finally receive, become arrogant, but you, when you receive, you feel calm. You don't need to show off. You don't need to explain yourself anymore. You only need to know this: I didn't live wrong. I simply lived ahead of my time. That is the feeling of being acknowledged, not with applause, but with results, not with praise, but with the right opportunity, arriving at the right time. And I believe, if you're starting to feel something awakening inside you, if things are slowly returning, it's because you're finally ready to receive. No more guilt for receiving. No more feeling you must give everything away to be loved. No more living as though abundance only comes through sacrifice. You are no longer someone defined by the value others gave you. You are someone who has redefined your own value and made the universe recognize it. So today, I'm not here to ask you to demand anything. I'm simply here to ask you to open your hands and whisper to yourself, I am ready to receive what was once mine. Because there is nothing wrong with receiving what is right. And you don't need to have a long list of reasons to deserve the light that was always meant for you. If these words are touching something inside you, write this in the comments. I'm ready to receive, not just money, but the part of myself that was taken. Or, if your heart feels lighter after years of holding it all in, simply leave this gentle line. I forgive myself for all the times I made myself smaller. And if this video makes you feel like a part of you is finally waking up again, please share it. You may not know it, but someone out there, just like you, had something taken away and never spoke about it. They're still waiting for a light, and maybe, just maybe, that light is you. You're not just a survivor, you are the heir to the light, and that can never be taken from you again. And right after this, in the next part of this journey, I'll tell you about someone who is already carrying a new invitation for you, an opportunity, a relationship, a turning point you don't need to chase anymore, because this time, it's choosing to come to you. You've been on a long journey, not one of footsteps, but of a heart that once trusted, once broke, once hoped, and is still opening. There were days you thought you were wrong, just because no one else could see what you saw. Moments you thought you were weak, just because you chose to walk away quietly instead of fighting loudly. There were years when you lived as if you needed permission to feel, to speak, to hope for something bigger than what life had taught you to expect. And if you're still here, still listening, then I believe this: you no longer need permission, because only the most courageous pioneer souls stay until the very end, to hear a message not meant to trigger fear, but to awaken power. I'm not here to teach you how to win. I'm only here to remind you that you already won, simply because you never abandoned yourself. So right now, whether you're sitting alone or listening quietly in the dark, I want you to take a moment for yourself, a sacred pause, not to look back, but to sign the doorway that's been waiting for you all along. Place your hand over your heart, or on the table, or gently on your screen, wherever you are receiving this light. You don't need to beg. You don't need to explain. You only need one clear vibration, truthful, steady, and ready. You can whisper it or speak it aloud as your soul's way of sending a signal to the universe. I am ready to receive the just destiny and blessings I deserve. I am ready to accept the most favorable cosmic verdict for a pioneer soul like mine. And I believe some part of you already knows this was always meant for you. You don't need to wait. You don't need permission. You don't need proof. You only need to sign it with the kind of faith that has never betrayed your truest nature, because the journey of Sagittarius was never meant to be easy. You are the sign of the way showers, the ones who shoot the first arrow toward a horizon no one dared name. You're not here to fit in. You're here to create something entirely new. You were never meant to repeat what came before. Never meant to live by someone else's map, never meant to love the way they taught you, or succeed by the measures they gave you. You came here to open a path that sometimes must be walked alone, a path that asks you to be misunderstood, to lose more than most. But one day, when you finally look back, you'll realize how many others were quietly following the light you once created in the dark. You may never see their faces, but you've already touched them. And today, it's your turn to be touched back. If you believe that the force protecting you never came from perfection, but from the part of you that never betrayed your pioneer soul, then please write this in the comments as your celestial signature, as the official opening of the next sacred door. I am ready to receive my great destiny of justice. This sentence is not for me to hear, not for others to see. It's your vibration, a soul signature that activates your destined timeline. When you write that line, you're linking into Kepler College, where star maps have guided thousands of awakening souls. You're syncing with YouTube's own frequency system, where truth spreads faster than noise, and more than anything, you're connecting to a community of souls just like you, awake, grounded, and deeply mature. No one can sign this for you. Only you have the power to unlock a door that's been carved with your name all along. And if these words mean something to you, if at any point in this video your throat tightens, your chest warms, or your tears come without knowing why, please share this video, not for me, but so the light of Sagittarius, your sacred arrow of truth, can reach more souls still wandering in the dark without a direction. One small act, one simple click, might be the final lantern that leads someone home, because light doesn't need to shout. It only needs to arrive at the right moment. And you are that light. I've watched too many Sagittarians forget who they once were. They lived to be accepted, to avoid upsetting others, to avoid being labeled too much. Some even shortened their own arrows, just so they wouldn't accidentally hit anyone. But has anyone ever asked you, who shot at you first? Today, I don't need you to answer that question. I only ask you to return to your full self, the version of you that once dared to step forward, to speak up, to let go, to forgive, and now to reopen your own destiny without fear of being tested again. I believe that miracles will start to unfold, not because of this video, not because of me, but because you've said yes to a higher energetic field, a field of healing through justice, a realm where you don't need permission to be seen, where inheritance isn't a piece of paper, but a light you once gave that's now circling back to find you. And in the next part of this journey, I will tell you about the latest invitation that the universe has been preparing for you, one that may come in the form of a new opportunity, a new person, or a change you never saw coming. It's already written, and the only thing it needs is your vibration, your signature, to confirm one thing. I am ready to open the door. There are people born to follow the way the world told them to live. And then, there are people like you, Sagittarius, born to ask, what if there's a better truth? You didn't come here to repeat what's been done. You came here to expand, not because you're arrogant, but because you can't bear to live inside a box that was never meant for you. Sagittarius is the sign of limitless learning, undeniable honesty, and unshakable faith in what is right, even when no one else sees it yet. You are the kind of person who would leave a safe place just to search for a deeper truth for yourself and for the people you love. You shoot your arrows far, but your heart always stays close to the footsteps of those you care for. I once met a Sagittarius who quietly walked away from a high position just to stand up for someone unheard. I knew a Sagittarius who spent a lifetime studying truth, not to argue, but to teach just one person how to think for themselves. I saw a Sagittarius give up everything, just to never bow to a lie. They didn't need applause, they only needed to be real. You are the one who travels far to bring meaning home, the one who doesn't live for reputation, but for what's real, the one who doesn't need personal victory if it means others lose their way, the one who's willing to let go, not because you're weak, but because you know. Some things only return when we become light enough to receive them. You are a straight arrow with a warm heart, a traveler of light, and a silent guardian for souls who are tired in a loud world. There's something few people understand about Sagittarius. You laugh loudly, but you feel deeply. You speak the truth, not to wound, but to protect others from illusions inherited from generations past. You seem distant, but your soul stays close, because you know. Distance brings clarity, but closeness is where the heart matures, and you don't need a stage to shine. But when you stand in the light, even those who once doubted you will finally know how to find you in a crowded world. That is the difference of a soul born to live in truth, without asking permission to exist. Look back for a moment. Did you ever shrink yourself so someone else could feel safe? Did you stay silent to preserve a relationship you knew was already broken? Did you force yourself to live the way they wanted, just to avoid feeling alone? And now, it's beginning to return, not in roses, but in truth, not through regret, but through the arrival of the exact opportunities you were always meant for. This is not a reward. This is confirmation. Confirmation that you never lived wrongly. You simply lived truthfully in a world not yet ready for truth. So take a breath and ask yourself, now that I no longer have to shrink, who do I want to become? A teacher? A writer? A lover? A keeper of light? Born from the dark I once walked through? Whatever it is, write it down as a way of calling your next self into the room. And if something I said mirrored a part of you you haven't been able to name until now, please leave a simple sentence in the comments. I no longer shrink. I am ready to be seen. Or if you want to send a message to the universe, a vibrational affirmation that you've returned to your rightful frequency, then write, I am Sagittarius. I carry a light that doesn't need a stage. And if this video feels like a mirror your soul has waited years to look into, please share it, not to spread a video, but to make sure that people like you are seen. Because I know there are still so many Sagittarians out there, living truthfully, loving deeply, sacrificing silently, and yet never placed at the center of the light they truly deserve. We don't need a crowd. What we need is a quiet but honest community. And if you're here right now, you already belong to it. And in the final part of this journey, I will tell you about what is about to unfold. An event, a person, an opportunity. And when it arrives, you won't need to think twice, because you are ready. And then, the most beautiful part, just as I promised, is not about getting something back, not even about reclaiming a person or a chance. It's about being given back yourself, the version of you who no longer has to apologize for being too sensitive, too honest, too different. The version who has walked through anger, sorrow, and silence and now stands in clarity, without needing to explain it to anyone. Yes, you once made yourself small because no one seemed to understand you, but from this moment on, you no longer have to shrink because the light has chosen you. And this time, you don't have to fight to keep it. You don't have to earn it. You only have to show up as yourself. No hiding, no asking, no doubting. And I know you're beginning to feel something drawing near. A new frequency, a new door, a new invitation. Not wrapped in fantasy or illusion, but real, timely, undeniable. In the next chapter of this divine sequence, I will tell you about the very first person or the very first opportunity that will walk into your life as the universe's way of giving back what was once taken from you. Not through apologies, but through action. Not by turning back, but by beginning something new, because your arrow has been reset. No longer flying off course, no longer aimed at what isn't worthy, but now moving directly toward the center of a world that needs the light you carry. So stay with me for the next video, where we won't just talk about healing. We'll speak about the gift that's about to rise from within you. The gift you thought was lost. The part of you that once only survived and now is ready to lead.